I was like having so much anxiety and fear of even like making new friends because I knew that as soon as I meet like new people, I would immediately start comparing myself with them. I had this like sense of responsibility that like by this age, I have to maybe develop my careers and make more money. So I didn't really have much courage to even mention about this dream to my parents. I started to really see the value and worth of my own life. Like, I am Nam-myoho-renge-kyo. I am the Buddha. I have everything within my life, so I don't have to seek something outside of my life.
From SGI USA, I'm Cassidy Bradford, and this is Buddhability, the weekly series where I talk with Buddhists from all walks of life about the power we each have to change our lives and the world around us. Welcome, Jee, to Buddhability. Thank you so much for joining me. It's so wonderful to have you here. I'm really excited to hear more of your story. So, as always, I have our guests just introduce themselves. So you can start with just telling me a little bit about who you are and maybe kind of how you spend your time, because I know you've got a very busy life. So, yeah, please take it away.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Jee Hyo Kim. I go by Jee, but my full Korean first name is Jee Hyo. I am 31 years old. I live in San Francisco Bay Area in California. And yes, I have a very busy life right now. So I work full-time as a community health advocate, working for victims of crime. And also I am part-time pre-med, meaning that my goal is, to really contribute to our society and the world as a psychiatrist. So I am taking a bunch of prerequisites right now to be able to apply for med school. And so, yes, working full-time, part-time pre-med, that's my life.
Well, thank you so much for making time. And we'll, of course, dig in a little bit later how you ended up on this path, because this wasn't where you originally maybe were headed. But before we get there, I think we can just start sharing about how you encountered Buddhism. I think you grew up around SGI Nichiren Buddhism. So maybe you can just tell me, like, what was that a journey like? And at what point in your life were you kind of like, oh, this is really like my Buddhist practice?
Yeah. So, I'm originally from South Korea. I was born and grew up in Korea. And my whole family practiced. And my grandma actually started practicing in our family. And then my mom and my dad, and so my whole family. So while I was growing up, I was, of course, like surrounded by like the Buddhist communities, and of course my mom is very strong and sincere practitioner, like Buddhist member. So I've seen a lot of like benefits that my mom has received from this practice. Whenever she has like a lot of struggle, she never gave up. She always had that spirit to continue and persevere, and in the end win over all of her struggles. So I think that has given me so much positive impact on like how I view my obstacles and struggles. But it was when I first came to the United States. I came to the United States in 2013, so it's been almost like 12 years now.
Wow.
But yeah, I came here alone for college, and that's when I really started to have my own problems. And because I've seen that how my mom really overcame her struggles, I knew that like when I have struggles, like I can go back to like chanting. But yeah, it was like when I really just faced my own struggles that I went back to, chanting, and I overcame my own struggles and become like happier. So yeah, it was when I really take on my own challenges that I develop my own faith.
Wow. I was just thinking, like you said, seeing your mom's example helped you, think about your obstacles kind of differently or as opportunity. And but then like leaving for school was the like, oh, now I really actually have the problems, Yeah. I think like similarly, yeah, I grew up with this sort of like framework around like how to think about things based on Buddhism. But right. I think it's very different, like thinking about things that way versus actually having to live that way is challenging, which is where like, oh, wait, I can't. Yes, I understand intellectually maybe that this is my opportunity, but without chanting, it's hard to actually create it as an opportunity, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So what kind of things, like, in your undergrad were like some of the things that you struggled with, and, you know, what did your Buddhist practice look like?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest like challenge that I faced on was about getting a job. Like after college, because I came as an international student, my visa was sort of like things that I had to figure out. And so after college, graduating, I had to find a company that could like sponsor my visa. And I am such a procrastinator, so I've been like procrastinating finding a job and applying, and I became like, I was at the point where like I had only like about 2 to 3 months or 2 months left that I have to like find a job, and my apartment lease was like about to end. And so I was very desperate situations, and I to be honest felt really like lost and like I don't know what to do. But as I mentioned, because I knew deep down that like whenever I have struggles, I should just go back to, chant. So I just continue really chanting. And also back then, my Buddhist community was really a big thing for me. So all of my other Korean friends went back to Korea, and I was almost like the only one who stayed in the US. But I was pretty sure like, oh, I want to stay, and like, I have my mission here. So I was pretty clear on that. But like, I didn't know like how to really secure, like what to do, like what should I do? And so I continued chanting, and my Buddhist community, of course, really encouraged me that like, oh, Jee, you can do it. Let's win together. Let's like challenge together. So with that support and me continuing to like chant, and long story short, I was able to find a company that could sponsor my visa first in LA, and then I got transferred up to Bay Area. So that's how I ended up being in Bay Area. And yeah, I'm glad to be that I be in that journey, and here, here I am. Yes.
Wow. There's nothing like this, like actual proof of like, oh, I was chanting about like being able to stay here and finding this job, and even in this, very challenging climate or circumstance, happened. Like those kind of experiences, I think early on too, are really like, oh, yeah, this really works. I might see it really works for, my mom or whatever, but for myself now I really know. A big topic today is really going to be facing our fears and our insecurities like head on. So maybe to kind of start and give context, I know, you really struggled in your early 20s with comparing yourself to others. So maybe you can just tell me like a little bit about what that struggle looked like, and how did you use your practice to challenge that?
Yes. Yeah, it was such a big struggle, and I mean, still sometimes, that kind of comes up.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah. But I had a really strong tendency to compare myself with others, and I think it just came from me not really believing my own worth, and just like low self-worth and confidence, I would say. So, especially when I was in Seattle, for college, that was the first city that I landed in when I first came to the US. I was at one point I was like having so much anxiety and fear of even like making new friends or meeting new people, because I knew that as soon as I meet like new people, I would immediately start comparing myself with them and start to find something that I do not have, like I'm lacking, and then I start to really degrading myself, and it was really vicious cycles. And I mean, I'm in school, so there's like, I can't avoid those like social interactions and stuff. So I'd say back then, like every day, of course I might seem okay, maybe like people wouldn't like notice that much, but internally I was suffering and struggling so much, because it was just like everyday social interactions that I felt like, oh, like I'm lacking, like I'm not enough, like I don't like myself, those kind of self-hated comments just coming into my head like every moment. So I was very struggling and suffering back then.
It's so tiring to have that, like, right? Like constant, you know, like, oh my gosh, can't turn off the, like, and to your point, like, you're in school, you can't avoid, like, you can't run away. Was there a point where you started to feel something shift, even if it was like, oh, just a little moment of like, okay, maybe I don't have to feel this way 100% of the time, you know?
Yeah, because I struggle so much, I was really desperate to be happy, because I really wanted to be happy wherever I go, whoever I meet, right? Like, I just wanted to be happy and feeling joy, which I didn't really feel. So I was seeking a lot of like encouragement, especially like in my Buddhist communities. And one of my Buddhist friends who has been supporting me so much was really encouraging me to read this chapter of the Gosho. Gosho is the collections of the letter that Nichiren Daishonin, who was the 13th century Buddhist monk, he was writing a bunch of letters to his disciples to encourage them to overcome their own struggles and challenges back then. And so there's a chapter called Treasure Tower chapter in the Gosho. And my friends encouraged me to read that chapter like every single day. And it's just like one page, very short and sweet letter. And I remember I was so desperate to become happy. So I'm like, okay, let me try reading it. So I do actually have my Gosho right in front of me. And if I can share a little portions of it. So it's basically Nichiren Daishonin telling his disciple Abu Sibo that his life itself has so much unlimited potentials, and his life itself is Nam-myoho-renge-kyo. And Nam-myoho-renge-kyo is the phrase that we chant in our Buddhist, practice, and it has a lot of meanings, but it's also the name of our Buddha nature as well. So Nichiren Daishonin is basically telling Abu Sibo, he is the Buddha. He has everything that in his life. And so, I can share little quotes from the Gosho. It says, in the latter day of the law, no treasure tower exists other than the figures of the men and women who embrace the Lotus Sutra. It follows, therefore, that whether eminent or humble, high or low, those who chant Nam-myoho-renge-kyo are themselves a treasure tower, and likewise are themselves the thus come one many treasures. Abu Sibo is therefore the treasure tower itself, and the treasure tower is Abu Sibo himself. No other knowledge is purposeful. And I remember I replaced the name Abu Sibo to my name, like Jee is therefore the treasure tower itself, and the treasure tower is Jee herself. No other knowledge is purposeful. And I, just reciting this like every single day. And I remember like for the first like few weeks, I didn't really feel anything. It was just a letter. I'm just like reading it. But the more I read it, somehow I was able to really engrave this message in my life, and I started to really see the value and worth of my own life. Like, I am Nam-myoho-renge-kyo. I am the Buddha. I have everything within my life, so I don't have to seek something outside of my life. And that was the moment that I also was able to see the value of other people. And once I started to see the value of other people and mine, I didn't have to compare, because there's no point of comparison. Everyone has this amazing, qualities and treasure tower, the Buddhahood within our lives. So I think that was the point where I really like transformed my tendency of comparing.
Listening to, I was like so like emotionally struck, thinking about, of course, my own experience, but also like so many young people I know that really struggle to like treasure their life and really value themselves just as they are. The perspective of Buddhism is like, to your point, like your life is this treasure tower. Your life is valuable no matter what, And I've heard so many people, like, when they're battling that, finding like a piece of encouragement written by Nichiren Daishonin or Daisaku Keita, and like really chanting, like, I want to use the words engrave this in my life. I want to really believe this with my whole heart. And it's so powerful. The moment that you're like taking action, like, okay, I don't actually value myself, or I don't value my life, but I want to. I kind of feel like even that moment taking action of like, I want to value my life, that in and of itself is like you're declaring, yeah, I do value my life because I'm taking action. You know, I'm going to chant about it. I'm going to study about it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, you know, of course we know this, like, many of these struggles that all of us have, we can have victories and transform it, but it's not like, oh, one and done, right? This journey of like really valuing yourself and comparing yourself to others definitely is like runs parallel or is reflected in your like career path and your studies. So you know, maybe you can tell me more about like what you studied in undergrad and then how you ended up kind of moving into a different direction later on.
Yes. So when I was in undergrad, I studied communication studies and minored in psychology. Which means that I didn't really have to take any science sort of class, like chemistry, physics, like no, not at all.
Yep.
I was avoiding them, you know. I tried not to take as much as I could. But so I, after college, I got a job and I started working as a journalist for a Korean newspaper here in the Bay. So I worked as a journalist for 4 years. And that was an amazing experience because it was my first official job after college, and I really got to experience a lot of different things, got to interview a lot of different people from different professions. So it has really widened my perspective on like how I see the world. The company was actually sponsoring my visa. So I'm, you know, so much grateful for the space, the company, and people, you know, there as well. And it was back in 2023 that I was kind of announced from the company that they had to cut my hours to half. And that was like when I started to really looking for another career. And I actually got my green card back in 2022. And I have thought of like changing careers maybe because I sort of knew that journalism was not the path that I wanted to continue pursuing. So I knew it, but I again procrastinated, and I'm like, I struggled. You know, I had it was like a long journey of like getting green card, and I finally got it. So maybe let me just take some break. So I, you know, sort of taking break and really didn't do anything. But it was when those announcement was made that I knew that, wow, gee, this is the time. Like I have to really take action, you know. And the great thing about this Buddhist practice is that, I mean, I could be just frustrated and feeling lost when those announcements were made, because living in the Bay is expensive and cutting my hours to half, you know, it's just will impact on my financial abilities a lot. So it was a big thing. But because I had this Buddhist practice, I knew right away that when those obstacles came, like this could be an opportunity. Like, gee, this is the time to take action. And so, of course, I got frustrated a little bit, but like it was not a long time after that I realized this is the time to take action. So I started, you know, looking for a job. And because, you know, right across the bridge is Silicon Valley, obviously. So I applied for a lot of tech companies. But I got a lot of rejection or no response. I didn't get any response, and I felt really lost. Like I knew that I was actually interested in mental health. Mental health has always been something that I've been very passionate about, and somehow within in my surrounding, I had a lot of people who struggled with mental health. And I kind of became a person who always like support them and be a good friend with them and just be there with them. And those little moments and experiences, I think, has shaped me into wanting to contribute something, like some way in mental health. And so I knew mental health was a thing that I wanted to pursue, but I didn't have any like college background or work experiences in mental health. So I was kind of feeling like, oh, what should I do? What can I do? You know, should I go back to work, or what do I even want to do in mental health, right? I wasn't really sure. I didn't have any clarities on that. And so I, continue chanting. And back then, my mom was here in the Bay. She was visiting from Korea. So, of course, she's a really sincere, strong, Buddhist member too. So we chanted together. And one thing about my mom, my mom really loves sharing this Buddhist practice with people, with the heart of really wanting for them to become happy, with the sincerity. So because my mom loves Buddhist practice, and she knows that this Buddhist practice can really help a lot of people transform their lives, when she visited, we shared this Buddhist practice with a lot of people during that time. And by sharing, that itself is, we're really making causes to help other people awaken their own Buddha nature and awaken to their own limitless potentials. So that itself is a great cause. And by doing that, along with, my chanting, and I kept studying, my mentor Daisaku Ikeda's writings and encouragement and gosho. And I also kept, supporting other Buddhist members, and going to the meetings, and hearing a lot of encouragement from people and sharing my own struggle. I think my life at that point became very strengthened, and I sort of started to have such an absolute conviction that whatever my future career is, I'm gonna get there, and I'm gonna be in the best career ever, that I can fulfill my own mission in the best possible way. So by daily practice of chanting and making causes, practicing, I've got to have such an absolute conviction that no matter what, I'm gonna find the best mission and career in my life. And as I was chanting, I started to really think about my old dream. And when I was in undergrad, even though I was majoring in communication studies, I also was thinking about going to med school, or what if? Can I even change my majors? I am interested in psychiatry, but what does the path look like? So I was actually looking through my archive and Google Photo Drive, and I found this bunch of screenshots where I've sent a lot of emails and messages to random doctors out there asking, oh, I'm an international student, I'm majoring in communication studies, but do you think it's possible to change my major, and what's the path looks like? I was asking a lot of questions and seeking. And I realized that, wow, back then, I was really aspiring to study for medicine, but because of many situational factors, I just couldn't pursue. And, because of my maybe visa status and all my personal, situation. So I couldn't stop, and I maybe put that dream somewhere in my heart. And I forgot about it. I've gotten forgot about it. And, this time when I had to really pivot my career, I was chanting and chanting, making sure I want to have the career that I can be absolutely happy and contribute in the best possible way. So when I think about that dream of becoming a psychiatrist, I just got so excited. I've kind of imagined myself being in different professions too, in that process. And I was just okay, I didn't really get excited. But when I was thinking about imagining myself really working and contributing in that field, I just got super, super excited, and my heart started to beat again, and I could just feel pumped, and I knew right away that this is my path, and this is what I want to pursue, even though it takes 10 years, another, yeah.
Long journey.
Yes. But another thing that I had to do was telling this to my parents, because, my family, my parents, they're not super rich that they could support my tuition, and then they can secure their retirement. It wasn't like that. They were just pouring everything to me and my brother, just pouring and trusting us. So, I had this like sense of responsibility that like by this age, I have to maybe develop my careers and make more monies and maybe like, giving back to them and contributing back to them, I guess, in my family, right? So I didn't really have much courage to even mention about this dream to my parents before. But now that I have so much clarity in it, and while I was chanting, I was really chanting to have that courage to even like talk about it. And courage, like everyone has that like qualities like courage, wisdom, and compassion, which is Buddhahood, and it's already within myself. So by chanting, we're bringing forth our courage and wisdom. And so that's what I did. Like I really chanted to be able to bring forth my own courage, and telling my parents in the best, in the most like right time, in the most right way. And luckily, my mom was there, as I mentioned. So we were able to have this like face-to-face conversation with her. And yeah, to my surprise, she was really supportive. When I was mentioning about it, she was like, if this is your dream, please, go for it. And I think with that one like saying of me, my mom it meant a lot to me. And so I just, wow, I want to pursue medicine. Like I want to go to med school. This is what I want. So I think after making up my mind though, everything got really clear because I have that like destinations. Now that I have to figure out like how to go. So first of all, I try to just find a school, community college that's close to my place, and I found one. Back then, I didn't even know like what this pre-med entails. Like what kind of classes do I have to take? Like I had no idea. I had no background, no knowledge about it. But I found the school, and I just just scheduled an appointment with my STEM counselor, and I just wrote the list of schools that I am interested in, and I asked my counselor to just find every information that I need. And she ended up creating this whole plan of like semesters with classes that I have to take, and that was how I started my school basically. So ever since then, I'm taking classes 1 or 2 like at a semester because I'm working full time, mostly evening classes. And about my career, my job, I still had to find. But now that I know I want to pursue medicine, because I didn't have any background or any work experiences in hospitals there, I learned that maybe this is what I want. So I want to have that like hands-on experience in healthcare setting. So I started to look for different like healthcare, medical centers or community health clinics. And yeah, very randomly, one of my friends that I knew when I was working as a journalist, it was like a couple of years back, he just reached out to me on LinkedIn saying hi and asking me, how I am. And I responded back saying, I'm good, how are you? And then I've shared just very organically what I'm going through. And he ended up pointing out this position that I'm currently at. He used to work at the same community health center. And he was like, oh, why don't you try this positions and, explore. So that's how I found, this position. Wow. And I got interviewed and I got in. So last June was my 2nd anniversary working as a community health advocate, working for victims of crime who has a lot of mental health traumas. So in my role, I, communicate and help direct victims of like various degrees of traumas and violence and crime. And the more I work in this profession, in this job, the more I feel like, wow, this is exactly what I need at this moment to become, psychiatrist that I want to be in the future, because I'm learning I'm just hearing and learning all these hands-on experiences of what those community members experience as part of their traumas. And yeah, just by helping them, like, it's just really fulfilling. And like I'm learning the spirit of serving community, which is very necessary. So yeah, I'm just really grateful to be in these professions right now and continue to pursue my dream to be in psychiatry.
It's got to be busy and challenging, but it must feel also at the same time incredible to feel like, oh, I'm actually like pursuing this dream, you know, that I actually have had for a long time, and maybe it was hidden away for a while. In this time of when you were maybe like cold emailing all of these doctors about an undergrad, like, oh, is this really possible? Versus, you know, when you're 29 and you know, decide, okay, actually I'm gonna do this. What do you think was like the difference maybe, and like why you think you were able to like finally really go for it at this later point in your life, and maybe like what kind of change had you undergone in that in-between time that really led you to become somebody that can really like have the courage, you know, to go for their dream?
Yeah. I think everything that I've gone through was just exactly what I needed to become the version of my current self. As I mentioned, like, you know, earlier, me has been struggling with my own self-worth and not really believing in myself. And I also had a lot of like things that I had to handle, like in my realities and my visa situations, and like just to survive, like I would say. But through that process, though, even though my early and mid-20s and even just later 20s, it was like full of struggles, you know, different types of struggles. And back then, like I suffered, I struggled, I got frustrated. But looking back, because of those time, I was able to really like strengthen my own self and learn that even though I had those obstacles, I have ability to overcome them, and I can still become happy. And I would say those struggles, even though like it might look awful or like, you know, it might look very hard to somebody, I can now like confidently say that they were very joyful struggle, because I grew a lot. You know, I became so strong. And that's one of the greatest things about this Buddhist practice. Like I can confidently say that, because life is full of struggles. I mean, there are so many joyful moments, but also struggles, and we cannot avoid those obstacles and struggles. But I have such a full confidence that as long as I chant and as long as I have this Buddhist practice, I can overcome anything. And I can become even happier, even stronger. And so, yeah, like all those time, of course, I maybe couldn't pursue this medicine, you know, dream earlier, but I've gained so much more than I could imagine for. And because of those time, now here I am, like very clear on like what I want and like my dream. And of course it's a journey. I might, you know, I still have, you know, things that I'll like explore. I also have a lot of doubts too, still. I self-doubt a lot too. But I can always come back quickly that like whenever like I have doubts. But you know what, like I'm Buddha, like I've already endowed with everything, and I have such a great power. So like there's nothing to worry about. Like, yeah, so yeah, it was just a great training for me, like to become the version of like who I am right now.
I think sometimes, you know, people, you know, maybe if they don't pursue something when they're younger or when they have more free time or whatever their certain context is, they can have regrets maybe, right? And it sounds like, oh, you don't have regrets, like, oh, I should have pursued it earlier, woe is me, I'm so sad that I'm, you know, it took me so long. But I think it sounds like from your Buddhist practice, it's like totally different, no regret, like actually all of that was like so crucial for me, and now I can do this so joyfully because of all of those, you know, struggles. Yeah. One thing I'm curious about is, you know, like earlier we talked about like comparing ourselves with others. Did you struggle with that at all? Like when you decided, okay, I'm going to do this, knowing that like some people are, you know, starting medical school in their early 20s or something. Like, did you feel that sort of comparison? And if you did, like, yeah, what was that like?
Realistically, because I'm juggling a lot, like I am like having to work full time, and at the same time I have to take classes, go to classes, and I have a lot of homeworks and exams and all this stuff. So while juggling, like I sometimes have a thought of like, oh, what if I've done these studies earlier in my undergrad when I had a lot of time, when I had like a bunch of time. It could have been maybe better. I didn't have to like go through this like so much grinding life, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, now at this point, like I know everyone has their own unique journey. And one thing that like I like to mention, when I started this journey, I also started sharing my working full-time pre-med, this life with more people through my social media. And it's been amazing because I mean it's first of all motivating me a lot. It's really just motivating me a lot. And also by creating this community, I got to also know and learn about a lot of people's life where they pursue like the medicine in their 40s or 50s when they're like single mother raising 2 kids. And just like hearing about these stories, I'm like, well, first of all, it is not impossible. It is absolutely possible. Second, there are so many people out there who are really like fighting for their own dreams in their own pace and journey. So everyone's journey is unique. And so there's like no point of comparing.
Yeah.
So through that process, I think strengthening my belief that like there's no need to compare. We all have our unique path and mission and timeline.
Yeah. There's no like one way to do anything in life and no one way to pursue your dream. Yeah, I just love what you share about hearing more of like other people's journeys and experiences and realizing like, wow, this is like the wonderful, like colorful tapestry of the world, of the field of medicine, you know, it's so incredible. Yeah, you mentioned that your like social media, was there like, at what point were you like, I'm going to add one more thing on and do like share social media? Because I mean, I think about like, oh, it's extra work, but I also think, it must be like so fun.
Yeah, it's been a long, like I've been doing my social media for like long time. First, like it was just my personal account, and then I slowly kind of open it up and sharing different contents and different parts of my life. But I think part of the inspiration was also coming from like what I do in my Buddhist communities, where, the great thing is that we always like with our Buddhist members, right? We get together, we pray, chant, and we talk a lot. We just share a lot about our own what we're going through. And encouraging each other. That's just like so one of the most beautiful thing in this community. And also there's this concept of transforming poison into medicine, where everyone, of course, have our own like challenges, but the challenges itself, like themselves, are opportunity for us to grow. And by overcoming them, we're showing or we can encourage other people who are going through the similar struggles. And so, again, like part of that inspiration of sharing my journey is that by showing people that, starting at this later than traditional, age, this path and journey, and showing them that it's possible, it can really inspire other people to do the same, whether it's medicine or other field, because everyone has their own different mission. So I really wanted to like share this message that anyone and everyone can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that, yeah, we in our Buddhist community really learn is like the power of your own story and your own, victory, meaning like victory over your own kind of like self-limiting beliefs or whatever, that like by being able to show in real life, in real time, this is possible and you can do it. I think sometimes we forget, or it can be easy to discredit our own experiences too. Like, oh, nobody would, be encouraged by this. It's so little. It's so whatever. But I think without a real life example of something being possible in front of you, then it is really hard to like stretch our imagination and really believe that something is possible. And when we see even just one person doing it, it makes it real. And it sounds like you're also just really, enjoying creating community, and it's really, so wonderful. Now, like, you're taking your pre-med classes, you're working full-time, you're doing your social media, you're active in your Buddhist community. How do you like keep yourself motivated and moving toward your dreams?
Yes. I mean, I get burnout a lot too. Like I get really stressed out and burnout, and I actually have 2 exams coming up next week. So this past week, I know. Oh my god! And
Good luck.
Thank you. I'm taking like physics and bio right now. So like physics especially has been very challenging for me. So even this past weekend, I felt like really overwhelmed and burnt out. But as soon as I start feeling stressed out, that's when I really center my life into practice. And that could be very like ironic. And my life, working, pre-med, school, social media, and on top of that, like Buddhist practice. So that's like big part of, my life as well. But I center everything on my Buddhist practice because it's all about life condition. Stressful things can happen, but it's really about like how I receive them and how I respond to them. And when I chant, I can really like lift up my life condition. I can lift up my life force so that whatever happens, I can really deal with everything with composure and joy, even though it's very challenging. When things happen, very weirdly, it's not affecting me that much. Like the things that has impacted me a lot, it's not really affect my mood or my feeling as much as it would be in the past. So I really take my Buddhist practice seriously, and I make sure to chant enough in the morning and in the evening as well. And I really try to muster up my life force to be able to get ready like every day. And it's like daily challenge and daily practice. So I make sure to like gather up all this life force with me when I start my day.
I was just at a like Buddhist activity, and somebody was describing it as like every morning it feels like I'm like putting on my armor for all of this stuff that's gonna like come my way, so it can just bounce off me. Definitely is that, I think chanting brings like so many incredible things. Like we see external things that we chant for change, like you mentioned finding your first job after college. Like we can chant for all of those things, and as part of that, like we're always like raising our state of life when we chant. We're bringing out this enlightenment so that we feel like strong and capable every day. I have one final question to close us out. So I always ask everyone for a piece of advice. And so for you, I'm wondering what advice you would give to somebody who's listening to this and feels like it's too late for them to make a big life change, or they can't do it. It's too scary, they're not capable, whatever, limitations they're placing on it. What would you tell them?
I actually want to share one of the encouragement from my mentor, Daisaku Ikeda. He talks about youth and then about mission, unique mission that everyone has. So, Daisaku Ikeda said, everyone has a mission. We were born because we have a mission. That's why we must live our lives and persevere. Youth is a time when we ponder the meaning of our existence. It's like a second birth. Our first birth is our physical birth. The second, our youth, is the time of our birth as human beings in the real sense. That's why it's painful. It requires the same kind of struggle and exertion as a chick breaking out of its own shell. The crucial thing is to never give up in the process. As you struggle and strive to find your way, please chant, think, study, talk with friends, and tackle the things you need to do now. If you continue to challenge yourself without giving up, you will come to see the mission that is yours and yours alone to accomplish. So I think it was just so beautifully said about like how each person has such a unique mission. And I just want to say like there's nothing never too late. When you are starting, that's the earliest time that you can start. There are so many people out there who are like me, really fighting and striving for their own dreams and their goals. I would encourage everyone to continue to seek, what really makes them, feeling happy and fulfilled. If you're really seeking community, I would really encourage anyone and everyone who's hearing this, watching this or hearing this podcast to, search for this Buddhist community, because it's really beautiful community where everyone's really challenging their own lives and to become happy. Like the purpose of this practice is to become absolutely happy. And so, you will get there. You will find your own mission. You'll be absolutely happy and fulfilled. So please continue without giving up. Never give up. So that's the message that I want to share.